Am I the asshole for parenting someone else's kid? Okay, so I, 49F, was on vacation with my husband, 51M, my son, 18M, and son's GF, 18F. We were in Bermuda, where wild chickens are kind of everywhere. We went to one of those touristy attractions so the kids could do a tour. Hubby and I have toured this attraction enough over the years, so we just gave the kids a ride and were waiting outside. Before the tour started, the staff directed us to sit under a tent and wait for the guide. There were a few chickens about. A couple of hens had very young chicks. Other people showed up and seemed to like the chickens but weren't interested in them. Then a family of 5 came. Mom and dad on their phones. Oldest son too cool for his siblings. Daughter, 12-ish, declared that she was going to catch a chick. I knew this was unlikely as they are good at disappearing in the brush. Well, daughter got too close and the mother hen squawked and jumped at her. This upset the youngest son, 10-ish, who started chasing the hen, swinging a stick at her. She was clearly panicking and desperately trying to get away. I immediately rushed over. As I was on my way, the kid threw the stick at the hen, and told him not to throw things at animals. Then told him to go to his parents. I was very firm in my statement. I returned to my family as the kid's father was asking him if he threw something at an animal. Since the kid denied it, I said, yeah, he just threw a stick at a chicken. The dad didn't say word one to the kid about his actions. Instead, he snapped at me saying, "We're his parents," indicating himself and the kid's apparent mom. So I replied, "Good. Then parent." I admit I was matching his tone. He just shook his head and said, "Wow," over and over in a really angry tone. I felt that I was right to address the situation directly with the child as it was quickly escalating into violence, and I was sincerely concerned for the safety of that mom and her babies. But was ITA? Should I have asked the parents to notice and prevent their kids' actions? Am I the asshole for telling my friend that I am not her assistant? I, 20F, live in student halls where all parcels go to the reception and need to be picked up promptly. I once got told off by the receptionist for not picking mine up within a few days. I was sick at the time and hadn't left my room, and ever since then, she's given me dirty looks. Because of this, I'm very careful about collecting my parcels on time, and I've told my friend Nancy, 22F, about this. She occasionally sends her packages to my place because it's safer than her own, and I've always been okay with it as long as she picks them up quickly. The issue is, she never does. I always have to remind her, and one time, her package sat in my tiny room for over a week. Note, my room has almost no storage space, which is why I prefer things to stay at reception until picked up. Nancy lives about an 8-minute walk from me, so it's not like she has to travel far. Last Wednesday, she asked again to send something to my address. I said okay, but reminded her, again, to pick it up ASAP. On Saturday, I happened to be running errands near her place, so I offered to drop it off. She said she was too lazy to get out of bed and open the door. She lives on the 4th floor, no elevator. She told me to text her if I would be free later that day, but I already told her then that I would most likely not be. On Monday, she asked to come pick it up Tuesday. I said yes. Then Tuesday evening, she cancelled and said she'd come Wednesday instead. That's when I got frustrated and reminded her she had told me not to worry. She gave excuses like being naked in bed, and that I couldn't expect for her to drop everything in such a short notice on that whole Saturday situation. I told her I would be there in 40 minutes, which I think it's plenty of time to just put clothes on, walk down and open her front door. She also pointed out that I didn't text her, so she assumed I was busy. I am of the opinion that she should be the one checking when I'm free, not the other way around. I told her all of this, and that I wasn't trying to argue, just holding her to what she promised. She kept making more excuses, including that she expected me to bring it on Friday. We talked loosely about hanging out with our other friends, but I never confirmed I'd be there, and she never asked me to bring the parcel anyway. She also said she has been really busy and picking up the package wasn't a priority. So I asked why she had it sent to me if she knew she'd be too busy to collect it and if she knew how particular I am about quick pickups. I ended up telling her I'm not her assistant and that I found her behavior disrespectful. I do get irritated easily, but this was the first time I've been this blunt and direct with her. AITA. Am I the asshole for being rude to my mom? I, 19F, have always enjoyed joking with my family and friends, sarcasm, dark humor, offbeat, etc., but recently it has not been the same. I just came home from college for the summer, I live with my parents, and it almost seems like I can't do anything right around my mom. Every joke and sarcastic remark I make, she takes it personally. Now, I completely understand not wanting me to joke, but she will wait until days or even weeks have passed before she brings up that the joke I told at dinner made her upset. At first I would apologize and tell her that I did not mean to make her feel upset, even though most of the time the jokes are not even directed towards her, but she still takes them personally. Now I have just gotten fed up. I feel like I am constantly walking on eggshells around her because no matter what I say or do she will bring up that my tone was off or I lashed out at her. Sometimes she thinks I am mad at her when I do not answer with a peachy tone or sound upbeat. It really upsets me because I love my mom and I have no intention of hurting her, but it gets really annoying constantly being told what I am doing wrong days after the situation. I even cried and begged her to please tell me when I make her feel bad the second it happens so that I can apologize and explain that I did not mean it the way she took it. It also sucks that when I do explain myself, she says that I need to calm down and to stop yelling. I never yell or raise my voice unless I am calling out from across the house. I wish she would just tell me in the moment and not wait. But that is not all, she has resorted to some sort of pity play where she says things like, I can't believe your friends allow you to treat them like this, or, I really hope you don't talk to your grandparents this way. It feels really insulting and upsetting. I stopped listening to her rants about my attitude and started fighting back and told her that she always thinks she's the problem which actually makes her the problem. She got really upset about that and would not talk to me for the rest of the day. It may not be a great solution, but I have started staying in my room more when she is home. I still eat dinner with everyone because I don't want to isolate myself from everyone else in the house, my dad and brother, but it really sucks that it has come to this all over silly jokes. This sounds petty I know, but it has completely messed up my home life and my safe space, so I cannot wait to go back to school. So, AITA for being rude to my mom. Does anyone know how I can fix this bad blood that has been created? Am I the asshole for not sharing my aunt's jewelry with my cousin's kids? TA because my family knows my main. My 30SF aunt, 60SF, recently died, less than a year after being diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She never married, never had kids, and I'm one of 6 nieces/nephews. Both my sister and female cousin, N, are married with kids. My male cousin, C, 40M, is married with 2 daughters, and neither of my younger brothers is married. They're largely irrelevant to this story. I'm single and have no intention of having my own kids. Background: my aunt was a doctor and went into palliative care when she was diagnosed. She wanted to enjoy the time she had left, mostly with travel. I was close to graduating from surgery residency when she was diagnosed. She asked if I would be willing to be her private physician after graduation, accompanying her on her travels, prescribing her pain meds, etc. She paid me a little bit more than I had been making as a resident, paid for my travel, first/business class flights, nice hotels, etc., contributed toward my student loans, and put me on the deed to her house. I moved in with her. I also moonlighted/did locums when we weren't traveling and after she got too sick to travel so I could keep up my surgery skills. Long story shorter, even with the time I wasn't making a full surgeon's salary, I still benefited financially from the agreement. My aunt had been a doctor in the foreign service and had accumulated a lot of stuff, Middle Eastern carpets, furniture, silk and cashmere scarves, art, jewelry, etc., in her career. Everything was open to all her nieces and nephews to split as we see fit, except the jewelry which was left specifically to her nieces. There was surprisingly little drama splitting any of it. We even had everything appraised so we were all in agreement on the value of what we were getting. My sister, N, and I all have different enough tastes in jewelry that we easily agreed on how to split the nice stuff, and most of the costume jewelry was set aside for my niece and N's daughter for when they're a little older. They're both under 4. Here's where C comes in. He said that his daughters deserve to have some of my aunt's jewelry as well. My sister and N said they're okay with splitting the costume jewelry to include his daughters. But he said that they deserve some of the nice stuff as well. My niece will probably get my sister's jewels someday, and possibly mine and N's daughter will probably inherit what N got, so C says it's not fair that my niece and N's daughter will get more than his daughters. C also says since I got the house, the furniture in the house that no one else wanted, got to travel with my aunt, and she paid off a large portion of my student loans, that I should share the wealth. My siblings are staying out of it, and N says it's ultimately my choice, but that what C says isn't wrong. Update, AITA for not sharing my aunt's jewelry with my cousin's kids. Positive resolution. And because there were some confusion about who everyone was, 2 cousins, siblings, C, male, and N, female. 3 siblings, I didn't give them letters, but let's call them E, sister, D, brother, and T, brother. C, N, and E all have kids. Me, D, and T don't. So the update. The 6 of us got together over the 4th. I was able to disperse the last of the proceeds from selling the art, rugs, antiques, etc. that none of us wanted. That ended up being a few $1,000s each, not life-changing money for any of us, but nice to have. I will probably use it to go on a solo trip in my aunt's honor. Once I accrue enough vacation now that I'm working full-time again. I had decided based on your comments that I would offer any of my nieces, existing and future, if D and T end up having kids, that they could shop for my inherited jewelry for their weddings. Before I could even present that solution, C was super apologetic about the way he had acted. He was feeling guilty that he hadn't been able to spend more time with our aunt before she died, small kids at home, work obligations, etc., and jealous that I had had more flexibility to travel with her for those months, and that made him lash out. Turns out, his wife had essentially read him the riot act when he had complained to her that their daughters weren't included, reminded him that their daughters have her whole side of the family, reminded him that jewelry is traditionally passed down female lines, the whole bit. He was quite embarrassed by how childish he had acted, but I did present that solution, and both N and E thought it was such a good idea that they said the same. When the next generation of girls gets married, that they can choose from their inheritances, too. So all is well, thank you all for your support and kind words. I am not going to go NC with any of my sibs or cousins. I still miss my aunt, work is not terribly exciting, but it's a paycheck, and it's nice to see that my surgical skills didn't slip irreparably. Am I the asshole for not defending my brother to my husband after my brother threatened his business? I, 32F, feel stuck between my husband, 34M, and my family, and I don't know if I handled this the right way. My brother, 30s, has always been the golden child in my mom's eyes. He has several kids but barely parents them. My mom, 60s, watches his children constantly while he sleeps, plays video games, or just disappears. Anytime someone brings up how unfair this is, she makes excuses like, he's just tired, or, he's doing his best. He rarely shows up to help, and everyone is expected to tiptoe around it. Recently things got worse. My husband owns his own business and works hard to provide for our family. After a dumb disagreement with my brother actually threatened my husband's business. Like straight up said he'd mess with it. Not even in a joking way. Then, he demanded my husband return the furniture we had bought and given him. This was stuff we purchased to help him when he was going through a tough time. It wasn't a loan. It was a gift. But suddenly he was acting like we owed him something. So yeah, my husband got mad. He made a comment about how my brother doesn't do anything, never helps with his own kids, and how my mom constantly enables him. It was honest. Maybe a little harsh, but not inaccurate. I didn't say anything. I didn't defend my brother because honestly, my husband was right. I've felt that way for years but always kept quiet to avoid drama. Later, my mom pulled me aside and told me I should have stood up for my brother. She said I let my husband disrespect family and accused me of changing since I got married. She made me feel like I betrayed them by not taking my brother's side. Now I feel completely torn. My husband is working hard, doing his part, and constantly getting disrespected. But my mom acts like I should cover for my brother no matter what. So, AITA for not defending my brother when my husband called him out. Edit, seeing a lot of people thinking I didn't defend my husband, I left that part out BC. I didn't need judgment on if I was TA for doing that. My family and I haven't spoke since this happened, and I definitely had a screaming match with my mother after this happened. Am I the asshole for not going to my friend's engagement party? I 36F and my 40F friend are in a bit of a fight over what her now fiancé did at her engagement. I want to start off by saying I am in no way mad at my friend since I know she had no choice of who was there, but I'm a little upset about not being involved. About 2 weeks ago my husband got a text from my friend's fiancé, who we'll call Jack 32M. He sent a picture of the ring with a short message asking if my husband would be his best man when the time came and if I could take photos at the engagement since I have a background in photography. We both agreed to be there and were through the roof with excitement for both of them since we knew this is something they both wanted for a while. Somewhere around a week later my husband got a text saying, "Hey man, we're having a fire tonight. Want to come?" Sadly we were on our way to my sister's place at the time, and because there was no mention of the engagement we decided to pass. After we got service a bunch of texts came in from my best friend with pictures and the video of Jack proposing. My heart sank out of guilt for not being able to be there with or take the pictures I promised. When my husband opened his phone there wasn't a single text from Jack saying he was going to pop the question. I congratulated my friend and Jack but was truly disappointed Jack didn't tell us tonight was the night, even though he told everyone else there he was proposing. The following day my friend asked me to come over for an engagement party. I was feeling very upset still, so I decided not to go so I didn't ruin her day. When I told her I had plans, she told me if I didn't go me and my husband would be removed from the wedding party. Am I the asshole for not telling a woman she was about to sit and poop? I, 26M, was at a crowded park recently where there were food trucks set up and people sitting around eating. Seating was pretty limited, and most people were sitting on this low concrete wall that runs along the edge of a parking lot. On the other side of the wall is a grassy area that's level with the top of the wall, so people sit with their backs toward the grass and legs facing the lot. I had just gotten my food when I noticed the only free spot left. At the same time, I saw a girl, well dressed for the park, also walking toward it. She saw it first and was headed that way, but I was closer and got there before her despite her running when she saw me approaching it. As I got to it, I looked down at the grass behind the wall and saw a big pile of dog poop right where someone's lower back or clothes would land if they leaned or sat back. It was pretty gross, and I decided not to sit. Right then, she walked up and looked annoyed, saying, "Seriously, I was going to sit there." I didn't want to make a thing of it, so I just stepped aside and said, "Go ahead, you can have it." She immediately sat down without checking behind her and just a second later jumped up with a disgusted look on her face. The poop was stuck to the back of her skirt. She turned to me and snapped, "Why didn't you say anything?" I told her, "I saw it, yeah, but I didn't know how you were planning to sit. For all I knew you were just going to perch on the edge or sit upright. It's a park, people walk their dogs here. You've got to check before sitting down." She kept insisting I should have warned her, but I told her I wasn't trying to be petty. I genuinely didn't know how far back she was going to lean or sit, and it wasn't really my responsibility to check the ground for her. She could have sat only on the wall and not on the grass and would have been fine. She eventually walked off frustrated, but now I'm wondering if I should have just said something anyway. But I feel like, especially since she was so confrontational about the spot, it wasn't really necessary. AITA.
Am I the asshole for telling my mum to get a job? Obligatory? This is a throwaway. I'm on mobile, my formatting is probably shit, and I'm furious right now, and also feeling a bit guilty, so I apologize if this is a bit all over the place. I'm gonna do my best. I, 33F, go up to visit my brother, 14M, about twice a year. He and I are really close, and I'm sad that he lives far away, because he's entering high school this year. I just went up for the weekend and got back home last night. This trip, she found out that my husband and I bought a second vehicle, so my husband and I didn't have to share a single vehicle with conflicting work schedules. Public transport isn't reliable here. She messages me as I'm getting ready to walk into work this morning and says that we need to have a conversation about my student loans. She can't pay her $65 per month Parent Plus loan, and that's going to affect my brother. I told her to apply for another forbearance, to call DepEd, to call the senator. She immediately replied that she has been denied a forbearance extension. DepEd wouldn't help her, and senator couldn't give any advice. I'm not sure I believe she actually did any of these things. I told her that the reason we have these things is that both adults in my household are working, despite both of us being disabled. Me with MS and my husband is a veteran, and then sent her a link to Indeed. I then told her I had to go to a food line to be able to feed my brother and to have a nice day. My brother is old enough that he doesn't need childhood. He can stay home alone if she and his dad are both at work. She would lose her Medicaid benefits and EBT if she got a job. But if she got a job, she wouldn't need it. Lost state-funded health insurance is the only con I can see to her getting her job. But with the recent news of Medicaid cuts, she might lose them anyway. So, AITA for essentially telling her to get a fucking job. Edited to add. This is quickly devolving into, just pay them. God, you're such an awful daughter. You should be grateful. If I needed someone to tell me what an awful daughter I was, I'd have just asked my mum. I'm not grateful. I wish I would have taken out Sally Mae loans instead of giving her yet another thing to hold over me and demand of me. My question was, if I was an asshole for telling her to get a job. Because I did truly feel bad about it. And the way I went about telling her to get a job. I don't care if I'm TA for not paying a loan she took out in her name to save me from Sally Mae. That was her choice. I cared if I took it too far by implying, well, if you've done all these things, I guess getting a job is your only other option. AITA for calling my grandpa's doctor. My 26 Monday grandpa, 85 Monday, recently got rushed to the hospital after he experienced symptoms related to congestive heart failure. His wife, my step-grandma, 75-F, apparently found out I called the hospital and got in contact with his nurse, and then eventually the doctor seeing over his care, who gave me the updates she was unable or unwilling to provide. He is in significantly worse shape than I assumed, and I am going to visit him tomorrow. However, she is extremely upset that I asked the doctor how much longer he has. He also recently had a stroke, among other issues, that I don't wish to share. I only called because I didn't want her to feel pressured, or feel like she would need to take time away from my grandpa, her husband, to constantly update us on his condition. She feels like I went behind her back, and only wanted this info to spread rumors and start drama. The nurse in charge had me on hold for a couple minutes before she shared info. As well as his doctor called me directly to share info. I presumed somewhere along there they asked if they could share before they did. I strongly suspect they asked my grandpa if he was okay with them sharing info. And he agreed. That's my guess. She also wasn't forthcoming with updates, as I only called later in the day when we had no new info. I figured she, rightfully and understandably, was more focused on him than updating us. Either way, she is upset, and might prevent me from seeing him potentially for the last time.